we are going to be talking about scholarships and financial aid today. But before that, what I thought of doing was to run everyone through some hygiene checks and talk about the admissions process as a whole. I believe we have some, unique registrants today, maybe people who've not exactly interacted or engaged with Masters Union before. So if you've heard this before, it could be a good refresher. But for people hearing this for the first time, I would say that it's pretty important to know these things, especially when it comes to admissions at Masters Union. Okay, so the first is the eligibility and criteria. So as you know, it's by the name itself, it's a PGP-TBM, which is a postgraduate program in technology and business management. So a postgraduate program means you have to have completed your undergraduate degree. So this means, you completed it a couple of years earlier and you're now working, or you are in your final year and you're about to complete it by the summer. We begin in May 2022. So if you're done with it by then you can apply and be eligible for the batch. In terms of some other stuff, we also look, I mean, as I've mentioned, freshers right now, and freshers are 20% of our cohort. We do have an average about, say, 2.5 to 3 years of work experience that we witnessed in our last two cohorts. So that's, people who have work experience are definitely welcome to apply as well. And finally, in terms of the entrance examinations, we conduct our own examination, which is the MU-BAT examination, and we accept three exams as exception strategies, which are the CAT, GMAT, and GRE. So if you've taken any of these exams and they are valid scores during their validity period, for the CAT, it's the most recent one, and for I think GRE and GMAT, it's about 5 years. So if you're set with that, then you can apply using those. Otherwise, you can always take the MU-BAT exam. Moving on, talking about the admissions process as a whole, everyone should know. So the first bit of the admissions process involves the application and as well as the entrance examination. So in the application process, you'll be filling in your personal details, your educational work experience details, and so on and so forth. Also, this includes your essays, any other documents that you need to upload. So take this section extremely seriously. It's a portion that we use for evaluation and selection. The second is the MU-BAT examination or any other entrance examination that you choose to submit, as I just mentioned previously. So these two bundles are taken as the first kind of bundle. These two things are taken as the first bundle for us to check the first stage of shortlist. And people who get shortlisted through this process then make it to the interview stage. Then the interview stage is another stage in which you have hopefully on campus physical interviews with a panel and then get selected for the program further. So that's the admissions process yeah, in a nutshell, pretty much. In terms of our deadlines, it's really important to know that if you're interested to be a part of our upcoming cohort and want to apply in our round one deadline, that is on 23rd January at midnight, which is a Sunday, if I believe. So please do keep this in mind. Anyone here who's on the call, you're probably interested in admissions, and I hope everyone has started their applications because there's just a bit over 10, I think 12, 13 days to go maximum for the deadline. So if everyone on this call, I would highly encourage everyone here to have at least started their application, if not have finished it or move towards finishing it. So that's something that I'd like to mention. Going towards fees and financing, just to kind of be explicit, the fees is INR 20 lakhs plus GST, which amounts to about 23.6. And for that, you have scholarships and financing, for which we have the webinar to have our discussion. So hope everyone is clear with that. I'm going to check if there are any questions or if there are any things. There are some questions that are rolling in. Yeah, nothing that I need to address immediately. So I'm going to complete the session, and then, as I said, we're going to go through a quick kind of session and then go through a quick Q&A. You should have all the information you need within the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so. Okay, so let's talk about scholarships first and then talk about the financial aid aspect. In terms of scholarships, you should know the different ranges that we give scholarships in, right? So that would be 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100%. Typically, as you'd get at other colleges as well, so you can expect it to be in this kind of system. So that's in terms of the ranges of scholarships that you can expect. The evaluation process, how do we look at scholarships? So we look at them on a three-pronged basis, and this applies across the various types of scholarships that I will be talking about. So the three kind of main things that we look at is need-based, diversity-based, and merit-based. So need-based, as you might know from the name, if you are a deserving candidate that deserves to study at this institution but cannot afford to, because of the income, because of your familial income, which is obviously documentation that we'll verify and collect, then we do look at a need-based scholarship mechanism or need-based evaluation in which we're giving you that scholarship because of your financial difficulty that you're experiencing here. Second I mentioned was merit based. So merit based is again a more classical scholarship that is on as you know, based on accomplishments or academic performance or other things like that. So that's more merit based. And finally, there's the diversity based evaluation, which is more on the discretion of the admissions team in terms of what kind of cohort that we want to create, what the composition of it would be in terms of what kind of people we'd want to attract towards towards our cohort and for different purposes. So that's a bit about the three things that we look when evaluating our scholarship, especially uh, across the different types that I'm going to mention. How to apply for the scholarships. This is also pretty important. Everyone, if you've been filling out your application form, you'll know that there's a section in the application form itself called scholarships. You can click on that and apply to a maximum of 2 scholarships that you feel you are a fit to. There's a lot of types of scholarships given. We'll be discussing those right now in a moment, but you can go through a description of that over there or on our website. And then accordingly, if that needs supplemental documentation, upload that and mark your preference out for the same. So what we'll now look at is the different types of scholarship that you have at Masters Union. Talking first about the Karthik Ramanna scholarship, this is primarily a merit-based scholarship. We look at exceptional academic records, exceptional professional accomplishments. And in terms of academic records, this just doesn't mean have to, it could be your undergrad scores, it could be an exam that you've taken, it could be an Olympiad, something that's quite recent. We don't look at stuff which is based in school, but stuff which you've taken maybe could be research that you've done. So things like that is something that we're looking for within this portion of scholarship. In terms of your professional accomplishments, it could be anything. It could be launching a new product, making sure that your business functions better. It depends on your use case and it depends on your profile how you would highlight this. But here's basically a merit-based scholarship that you can expect from the Karthik Ramana scholarship. We both give like a full as well as partial waivers. So you'll find multiple Karthik Ramana scholarships awarded, some of them being full waivers and some of them being partial waivers. So that is a kind of merit-based scholarship that we go out for. That's the first one, the Karthik Ramana scholarship. The second one is the Rajni Thethi scholarship for women. And as you can guess from the name, it is applicable only to female candidates. So all the female candidates, if you're interested in this scholarship and want to apply for it, I would encourage you pay attention to this one and what I'm about to say going forward. So one thing we're looking at is, one second. One thing we're looking at is an impressive academic and professional track record. And we'll be looking at your transcripts, we'll be looking at your grades, as well as the accomplishments that you've had at the workplace. What we want to see from kind of your profile is the potential for leadership, whether it's towards the corporates, whether it's towards an entrepreneurial journey. What we'd like to see is your potential for leadership, the drive, the ambition, and the motivation that you've displayed across maybe your undergraduate career or during your work experience, and how you can orient your experiences at Masters Union just to help you use it as a platform to leverage your career growth. So that's something that we're looking at specifically from this. And very interestingly, I found some statistics related to women in the workplace that I'd like to ask everyone. Maybe you can let me know in the chat, and let's see what let's see what you guys think. So one figure I found was, and maybe I can ask you this question. According to you guys, and just put this in the chat. So according to you guys, out of say 100 women in India, how many of them do you think are, sorry, out of 100 CEOs in India, how many of them do you think are women? If you take a sample size of 100 CEOs, how many do you think would be women? So I can see 9, 4, 10 in 100. Yeah, so yeah, it's not even 5, it's about 3, right? Only 3 out of 100 CEOs in India are women. And so there's a big problem in terms of attrition of women from the workforce, especially when women are kind of growing older. So these kind of statistics are pretty alarming, and we want to kind of play our part in curing, at least in making a more workforce that has more gender parity. So this is the Rajni Thethi Scholarship for Women. Okay, moving on. We have the Narendra Jhadav Diversity Scholarship. So this scholarship, when we were making it, we are looking at specifically at our diversity and cohort composition. So we're looking at candidates from underrepresented communities, and this is usually underrepresented communities at B schools, and specifically in terms of the geographical location. So in terms of students from the Northeast, Ladakh, Bhutan, or even tribal belts, we see that there's a vast level of underrepresentation as compared to, say, more people from other states going to business schools or getting these opportunities. So we want to promote diversity in our cohort. So if you feel that you fall under this particular kind of ambit, then feel free to apply for this scholarship. And as I just mentioned, what we look at is how our cohort is composed. So the diversity factors, whether it's geographical, educational, professional, work experience wise, we look at all the different factors when actually making our selection and composing that cohort. So just keep these things in mind when you are going ahead with your master's union application. Okay, now there's a scholarship for technology leaders, and this is the first one that's slightly different, and I'll tell you why in a bit. What we're looking for here is demonstrable technology oriented leadership. So what does this mean? Actually, before I get to what it means, I'll tell you in terms of who it's applicable for. So it's not just for people who are in the tech field or working in the tech field or using tech in their work in a particular sector. It is also for students who are studying or maybe in their final year or who've just about to graduate and have used their undergraduate tenure to have certain projects or maybe research that they've done and have this kind of demonstrable success. So this is something that we do need to know from you exactly what it was that you did, what were the results, what were the challenges, what were the outcomes, and what was the success that you've achieved specifically with whatever you're choosing to kind of submit to us. And in terms of submission, I can give you some idea as what people have said tried to submit to us before. We've had innovations, maybe proof of concepts. We've had patents submitted to us that people have already kind of worked on. They've submitted more advanced research, whether it's in computer science or in business, working with professors, for example, that they've done. So these are certain elements. You can obviously think of more. And if you want to check your fitment of exactly what you're sending for the tech leader scholarship, if that document is correct, then you can, of course, write to the admissions team or connect with your admissions counselor and get to know more in terms of if that document is correct or not. So yeah, why I was saying this is different is for this scholarship, we'll need a supplemental essay up to 400 words. I think the lower limit is about 250. But yeah, 250 to 400 words, you'll need to submit a supplemental essay where you're talking about your accomplishments, where you're talking about the project, where you're talking about your research. And again, in the application form, you'll find a section there for the scholarship for technology leaders. You click on it, and directly under that, I think there's an option to upload this supplemental essay as a PDF. So for this particular scholarship, please do keep in mind that there is a supplemental essay. Okay, moving on. We have the Mukund Rajan India Bound Scholarship. And this is very interesting because we've seen a large rise in the demographic, this particular demographic applying for good business programs in India. So it's applicable for all Indian origin candidates, PIO holders, and Indian students or professionals who are based abroad. With the H-1B system or with what's ever happening with COVID and over the last couple of years, we have seen a lot of people come back to India and look at kind of re-establishing or repivoting their careers back towards this. We do have students who've either worked in Wall Street or have gone to universities in the US for their undergrad, universities like Purdue or something, for example. That's one that comes to mind. But in terms of students looking to kind of pivot back to India and catapult their careers in India itself, we see that in terms of recognizability, people might not know what Purdue or like another kind of maybe non-traditional university would be like, even though you might have had great educational experiences there. In a very kind of Indian corporate world, it's very results driven and it's very kind of brand driven. So with Masters Union, we definitely see that kind of gap being filled between students like this who've come back, or people who are currently based there, or people who are working there, and them wanting to kind of engage with the corporate sector in India, and use Masters Union as a platform to again enter at a level where they are business leaders who are at the intersection of technology, at the intersection of engineering, at the intersection of business. So that's something that we've really seen a large rise in the kind of demographic that's applying towards us. So that's mostly about the Mukund Rajan India Bound Scholarship. Now, another special scholarship is the scholarship for young leaders. And as you can guess from the name, this is applicable for fresh graduates, freshers, as you would like to call them. So if you're currently in your final year, about to graduate and are applying, or you've already graduated and are applying for us, so keep in mind that this scholarship is for you. We would like to have seen you displayed again exceptional ambition, motivation, drive during your college tenure. And again, something that we're big on is looking at leadership potential and leadership ambition. So we're looking at these aspects and seeing if you've had demonstrated experiences like this during the 3 or 4 years that you've spent in college. So this could include, and this is just an example, I mean, obviously you could enter more if you've done more, but student-led community participation, if you've led any communities or clubs, participated in them, what you've done in them, or any other initiatives, whether it's more social work, you can let us know through this for the scholarship for young leaders. And similarly, you can see that we also have a supplemental essay similar to the tech scholarship that we had as well. So you'll have to let us know exactly, again, the challenges that you face, the successes that you've had, the kind of learnings and takeaways that you've had throughout this process of whether it was a club or a committee that you managed. But this is something that, again, requires a supplemental essay for this scholarship. And again, you can upload it in the scholarship section directly in the application. Okay, moving on. We have the scholarship for entrepreneurs. And again, pretty easy to make out by the name, but the application criteria is pretty specific. So we're looking for candidates who have entrepreneurial experience of a greater than a year. Okay, so this is something that people who've spent a good amount of time with their venture, whether it's something that's at whatever stage it's at. So it's varying levels of startup success that we're looking at. It's not necessary for you to have raised Series A or Series B and had pivotal success there. What we do need to see is some work having had been put in. It cannot be an Instagram page, or it cannot be just an idea or something that you have in your head that you can submit as your own startup. So it needs to be something functional that we can search, research, and index. And it needs to be something that, is much, much more than some ideas or collections of thoughts that you have. And again, you need to have entrepreneurial experience for over a year for the same. And again, across varying levels of startup success, as I've explained. And what we're looking at for people is how they're looking at Masters Union to extract academic perspectives from the educational experience that happens here across 16 months, and how they'll implement that in their own line of work, whichever kind of venture they have, whichever startup they have, whichever sector it's in, how they're going to use the principles and the learnings and the educational takeaways from Masters Union to apply towards that. So as a use case, I would say people are a lot more free with Masters Union as compared to being bound by a curriculum that you have to follow in a business school. Our students as well, say they go through their first 5 months or first 4 5 terms of rigorous academics. Post that, once the industry immersion modules do come in, it becomes extremely tailored and customizable. So that's the approach that we want to have with this as well, in terms of people wanting to use Masters Union as a platform to extract academic knowledge or takeaways or certain best practices for their own companies as well, and move on towards there, or maybe even look for incubation, mentorship, funding, acceleration for their startup. So that's for that specific purpose. And even for this is the third scholarship that we have that requires you to write a supplemental essay where you outline your entrepreneurial journey, again, from the start to the finish. Tell us about your challenges, the kind of motivation and drive that you needed to succeed through those, what successes you had, and that should be good for your supplemental essay for this scholarship. And I think that pretty much takes care of the several different types of scholarships that we have. In terms of our batch, as I said, I'm assuming this question will come later, so might as well address it now. In terms of our batch, we've had about, I'd say 30% of scholarships that get awarded. And I said they're given in tranches, right? So 25%, 50%, 75%. So you'll obviously see the number of 75% will be way less, but they'll be in multiples and flow through the different tranches there. So about 30 to 33% is across the last two batches is what we've seen in terms of scholarship being awarded. And that's something that we're looking to maintain and again, attract these particular people with these particular profiles. And again, we do not believe in kind of curbing your educational experiences because you can't afford it. If you are smart enough to get in, if you are eligible, then you will, we will try to support you as best as we can with this process. So that's about the scholarships. Another way of support that we offer is finances through an educational loan. And over this, I'm not really going to get into the details of the educational loan because we have all the details out on our website with all the details and contact details kind of spelled out. And the best people to be asking about this loan and your fitment is actually not me. It would be the POCs mentioned on that website. I'll tell you why, and I'm going to go through how you can look at applying for an educational loan when you're applying for this through us. So we currently have, as you can see on our website, 3 customized products with Axis, Bajaj FinServes, and HDFC. So with these 3 people, what they've done is they've come and they've understood what Master Union does, what the curriculum is, what the DNA is, and most importantly now, what the placements are. So what happens is these people already have ready-made educational products with us, and you will not need to explain Masters Union from a student perspective or an applicant perspective, as I might say, because that happens if you go to other public or private banks for loans. So as you guys know, we've consciously not walked the AICT accreditation path, and that's for a number of reasons that we've outlined on our FAQ section as well, and spoken about at length in a couple of webinars before. So what happens is it would be best if you want kind of a smooth experience that you come through us and you go to the POCs that we've listed in the website and with these 3 products. Otherwise, you can definitely go for a personal loan or go for a loan from your own personal bank. But the onus of explaining Masters Union will be on you. Of course, if you'd want like for us to also have a conversation and support you for the same, we'll definitely be doing that. But yeah, just to let you know, in terms of ease of access, I think the customized products are the best to go with. As I mentioned before, all the details are on the website, the interest rates, the moratorium periods, security details, and as well as most importantly, the POC details. Everyone over here, you are free to connect with the POCs. You are free to connect with them, even if you are just an applicant and you have some questions. It's not like you've had to have been admitted and you need to take the loan then, so you need to have this conversation. Even if you have basic queries that you want to get answered, I think you are completely free to write them a mail or give them a call and get your queries answered there. So again, just repeating, we have these 3 customized products with these 3 firms, and we're going to go ahead with the Q&A section next. But yeah, I think the best thing would be to reach out to these POCs and talk to them for any kind of queries that you might have on the educational loan process. In terms of our batch, let's say 40 to 50. See, most of our batch, when they're coming in with a lot of work experience, as I said, about 20% was fresher, so 80% of it came with work experience. A lot of them had their own ways of financing their own experiences at Masters Union, and a lot of them did look at taking personal loans or educational loans. About 40 to 50% did, and it was a great leap of faith at that time, if I now think about it, because there weren't any placement results that we'd had, which we've recently announced, because they took a big leap of faith taking an educational loan on a new program, and obviously their dividends have paid off in multiple. I'd like to talk about the ROI perspective as well, because if you look at the ROI, you can look at an average salary divided by the fees of a college that it takes. Not to talk about any other college, but at least with Masters Union, I can say that it's greater than 100%. And for someone who does take an educational loan to finance their education, I'd say it's a step towards, number one, financial independence, because you're taking your own finances into your own hand. Second of all, I do not think it'll be much of a problem or any problem at all for you to pay it back, given the salaries that we have, the kind of roles that we have, and the growth that we have for our students after they get placed.